So if you can tell me a bit, well, the question that's on everyone's mind, what inspired you to go back to Ratchet and Clank? And my follow-up question to that would be, there's a lot of movement in the industry, and I'm sure this had an impact on Insomniac Games too. So were you worried about losing touch with the essence of what made the series great?
Well, I think that everybody at the studio was excited to get back to the Ratchet franchise. It's near and dear to our heart. It's kind of the studio that Ratchet built in a lot of ways, and so we have so many ideas that have percolated over the years for the game, the franchise. I myself have never actually worked on a Ratchet game prior to this. Been at Insomniac over 16 years, and this is my first Ratchet game, right? So I came to this franchise as a fan. I played it since the very beginning, and a lot of us on the team are in the same boat. We are huge fans of the series, and I think that's allowed us to stay true to what's great about the franchise because we love it from that standpoint. That had made it a little difficult for us in the beginning of how you thread that needle between you've got all these diehard fans that have been with the franchise for so long, and it does have a very deep backstory at this point. But at the same time, we need to make a game that's accessible to new players. So I think at the beginning, that was our biggest challenge. For those of us who've never worked on it, to really define and quantify what it is that makes Ratchet and Clank great, and then make sure that we could do that in a way that doesn't ostracize old players, but can allow new players to really enjoy the game.
That's great.
And we're definitely passionate about it.
For sure. So, I know a lot of games go in and out of production. So do you remember what was really the key element that made you decide that this was the right time to go ahead and continue into the Nexus story?
I can't remember the exact moment. There's sort of there's two phases of development. One is a little bit higher level where things are being decided about the future and what games are happening. And I wasn't really involved in that. But as soon as we started talking about the game itself, and as I said, trying to find that balance between new and old players, continuing the Nexus story made a lot of sense because that is the storyline that we created so long ago and have been continuing along the way. The big question was, are you going to continue that, or are you going to continue sort of the movie version or the RCPS4 version, which, when you look back at it, is a tale that's told from the point of view of Commander Quark, and he's not exactly the most reliable witness to events. So we thought that staying true to the canon that we had developed over the years made a lot more sense.
In the past years, PlayStation really shined with AAA games that appeal to a more mature audience, maybe leaving a bit behind some younger gamers. Do you feel like Ratchet and Clank could really bridge that gap?
Yeah, I mean, Ratchet and Clank is unique, I guess, in that not a lot of games out there have such a broad appeal, that they're accessible to a wide variety of players, from young to old. So, especially a lot of people have been going through a lot of stressful things over the last few years, shall we say. My biggest thing is we wanted to bring something really positive and enjoyment-filled to the world, and I think that now is a perfect time for us to be playing something that is as charming and sort of filled with heart as Ratchet Rift Apart.
Yeah, you're right. My follow-up question would be, the Spider-Man games, they were super satisfying in terms of movement, both in combat and to move around the city. Obviously Ratchet is no Spider-Man, but how do you manage to bring this kind of satisfying flow over to this game?
Yeah, I always think of movement and control as one of those tent poles of Insomniac. When I think back to, as a fan, Spyro the Dragon was a quadruped character that moved so gracefully and had the glide mechanic and everything. And I look at every game that we've made, even before I got here, as a continuation of that, where the feeling of the character is such a high regarded aspect of the game. So I see that as just a through line of the studio. Regardless of the genre, I can see that going from Spyro to Ratchet, even Sunset Overdrive to Spider-Man, to, you know, it's something that we put a lot of emphasis on. It should just be fun to move around, you know. And I think, especially with the addition of some of our traversal mechanics, like the wall run and the rift tether, the dash, the phantom dash, these are all things that tie together in a way that just has a great feel to it. So even, you know, skilled players are going to have a lot of joy in getting really good at using those combinations.
Yeah, it was really nice to go through the 30 hours of both Spider-Man games during the holidays. I just had a blast, so I figured cool. This next game would be the next one I'm really looking forward to. So during the breakout sessions, we could really feel a synergy between your different teams. Would you say that was like a super key element to the success of Insomniac, and how has it evolved over the years?
Well, first of all, absolutely, it's key to success. I think what's great about Insomniac is, we always say great ideas come from everywhere, and that's more than just a platitude. Like, anybody can pitch ideas, anybody in the studio, and the best idea will rise to the top. I think that what's great about any creative, collaborative environment is everybody has a different perspective and everybody has a different expertise. And, you know, especially somebody who, like, I'm in a position where I'm a creative director. I get to hear from people who have a very different perspective on things, and a lot of times most of the time, I should say, it elevates everything else in the game, because I may be keen and focused on this one aspect, and somebody else will be like, well, I really enjoy this aspect, and we should play up that. Like, you know, you're totally right. It wasn't on my mind, but you are absolutely right. And that's how it works all across the studio, that everybody brings something. I think historically at Insomniac, it's been that way. I think Ted Price, the owner, and his partners, Al and Brian Hastings, who are both genius programmers, and those guys have always had a really flat hierarchy where everything is equal, like a really egalitarian feel to it. So ever since I've been there, it's been that way, where everybody feels welcome and respected, and it elevates our game, I think.
Yeah, for sure. That must be fun. So Marcus, you've been making games for a while now. What would you say that was something that you didn't have to worry about 10 or 20 years ago, and now is always floating over each new projects that you do, maybe in terms of challenges?
I think the thing that has made making video games so fun for as long as I've been doing it, and thanks again for reminding me how old I am, I appreciate it, is that every day is different. It's never, ever the same. You know, when I was younger, I had a paper route. When I was younger, I worked road construction. You know, I've had this varying career, but making games, it's always different. You never know exactly what you're going to get into. And that's really exciting. And as long as you realize that it is a little like things are going to change, then you can confront it. And I think what we do at Insomniac is extremely well is adapt to things and creative problem solving. You know, so you know, there are times when we are fretting over things that no one will ever care about, but we're still going to spend 3 hours in a meeting, you know, tensely trying to figure things out. But that's part of the balance. It's just at the end of the day, that's what makes the games really exciting, is every detail has been sweated over. You know, nothing has gone just frivolously out the door.
Good. I know you already answered this during a breakout session, but I want to bring it up in the interview. So if you had to choose just one element that you think will impress players and really make them feel that we're full speed into a new generation, if you had to choose one thing, what would it be?
Well, I feel like I should change the answer because I did answer this. I think haptics of the control of the DualSense really elevates the experience overall. And it feels like it was made for the Insomniac weaponry, of course. But it also feels good just to experience something and make it more immersive. And that's where I'm going to twist it up on you and say the 3D audio works really well with that as well. And so the combination of the improved visuals, the speed of the SSD, the feel, the feedback of what you're seeing and hearing with the controller, and then that audio element on top of that just brings it all together. That it's just so much more immersive nowadays. You know.
Yeah. So, all right. This was I really like my question here. So, in your project, we have a Marvel movie composer, a Marvel music composer.
Okay.
We have visuals inspired by Pixar, and then we have a story that's full of heart, friendship, and flawed heroes, and humor, of course. So, is that and that explore the galaxy? So, can we say that Rift Apart is Insomniac's take on Guardians of the Galaxy? It just feels like overall, Marvel inspire and Disney inspire you guys a lot.
Totally. Yeah. I it's one of those things where that's that zeitgeist, right? Like everything inspires everything, and I think that's a pretty good play. I think that being compared to Guardians of the Galaxy is a great compliment. So I think we would all take that.
Very good. And my final one, what do you say to someone who's worried about jumping into Rift Apart without having played into the Nexus or previous games? What's your final pitch?
Just do it. It's I mean, when I say we've sat in rooms and sweated over the details, the biggest one that we sweated over was how we bring in new players, how people who haven't been here since 2002 and don't know all the backstory will understand everything. So I think we did a pretty good job of bringing people up to speed without needing to get into the nuance and minutia of the backstory. So everybody will enjoy it.
That's good. Great. So that's it. I went through all my questions. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much.